In World War II, soldiers faced not just bullets and bombs, but a silent, relentless killer, the cold. More men fell to hypothermia on the frozen fronts of Europe than to enemy fire in some battles. The cold didn't care how tough you were. It was the great equalizer. Imagine being stuck in a muddy foxhole, soaked, with the wind slicing through your uniform and your body shaking uncontrollably. This was daily life for millions of young men, many unprepared for the brutality of a European winter. The cold sapped strength, clouded minds, and turned capable fighters into easy targets. Losing the fight against the cold meant you'd never see another battle. When standard issue gear failed, survival demanded innovation. Soldiers learned that outsmarting the cold was as important as outsmarting the enemy. They discovered that survival wasn't about having the best equipment. It was about using what you had smarter. In the frozen mud of the front lines, a simple, life-saving trick was born. Not from a general's orders, but from desperate necessity. This trick would transform basic gear into a powerful weapon against the unseen enemy. It was a war within a war, and the stakes were just as high. The real spirit of survival was about to be put to the test. Every soldier got a standard wool blanket. On paper, a solid piece of kit. Wool insulates even when damp, and armies trusted it for centuries. But the front lines were a sea of mud, slush, and freezing rain. Foxholes filled with icy water, and gear was always wet. A soaked wool blanket became a heavy, heat-sucking liability. Instead of saving lives, it accelerated hypothermia. Men froze in their sleep, frostbite and trenchfoot ran rampant, and the army's gear was failing them. The ground itself pulled warmth away, and the blanket offered little defence. Soldiers realised the problem wasn't the blanket. It was how they used it in these brutal, wet conditions. They couldn't wait for better gear. They had to improvise with what they had. Driven by necessity, they started experimenting and sharing ideas. The answer wasn't new equipment, but a new way of thinking. They needed a trick to turn failing gear into a survival system. This crisis forced them to innovate, and soon a battlefield solution began to spread. The wool blanket wasn't useless. It just needed to be part of something smarter. A new approach was about to change everything. The solution didn't come from a manual. It came from shivering soldiers sharing wisdom in the night. The idea was simple: layering. Staying dry was the key to staying warm. Soldiers had a wool blanket for insulation and a waterproof poncho or tarp. The trick was to block water from the ground and stop heat loss. First, lay the poncho on the ground as a barrier. This stopped the earth from stealing body heat. Next, wrap yourself in the wool blanket, half under, half over, like a human burrito. Trap air close to your body for insulation. Finally, drape a second poncho or tarp over yourself to block rain and wind. This three-layer cocoon turned basic gear into a personal survival shelter. With this setup, a soldier could survive even the coldest nights. Ingenuity, not equipment, made the difference. Here's how to build the life-saving human cocoon. Step 1. Lay a waterproof poncho or ground sheet on the ground. Never sleep directly on cold earth. Step 2. Place your wool blanket on top, lie on one half, and wrap the other half tightly around you. Tuck it in to eliminate air gaps and trap warmth. Step 3. Drape a second poncho, tarp, or canvas over your body. This top layer keeps rain and wind out, protecting your insulation. Don't cover your head completely. Moisture from your breath will dampen your blanket. Instead, leave a small opening for breathing or use a scarf to warm the air you inhale. This system creates a microclimate, keeping you warm even in deadly cold. The key is layering ground barrier, insulation and weatherproof shell. It's a technique as useful for modern campers as it was for WWII soldiers. With just a few simple steps, you can turn basic gear into a survival shelter. The difference between life and death was often just knowing this trick. It's a lesson in using what you have, not what you wish you had. The human cocoon is timeless survival wisdom. Master it and you're ready for the worst. The proof was in the survivors. Soldiers who used the cocoon trick woke up alive, while others froze. In the Battle of the Bulge, a young private survived a blizzard by following this method, while less fortunate men didn't make it. Improvisation was key. If you lacked a second poncho, team up with a buddy, share blankets, and cover both with whatever you could find. 2 bodies meant more warmth and better morale. Soldiers scavenged canvas, oilcloth, even pine boughs for extra insulation. The principle was always the same: waterproof bottom, thick insulation, windproof top. These field innovations became unwritten rules of winter warfare. Knowing how to make a proper cocoon was as vital as knowing how to shoot. Survival depended on sharing knowledge and adapting fast. These weren't just stories, they were hard-won lessons passed down the line. In the end, it was human ingenuity that kept men alive. Why did this trick work? It's all about stopping heat loss. Your body loses warmth through conduction, convection, and evaporation. The ground barrier blocks conduction, no more heat stolen by the earth. The wool blanket traps air, insulating you against convection. No more wind stealing your warmth. The outer poncho keeps rain and snow out, stopping evaporation and keeping your insulation dry. Add leaves or pine boughs under your poncho for even more insulation. This 3-layer system is a masterclass in heat management. It's survival science, born from necessity, not textbooks. The trick tackles all 3 ways you lose heat, using only basic gear. Keeping dry and blocking wind are just as important as staying warm. The field blanket trick is proof that simple solutions can save lives. Understanding the science made all the difference. Medics quickly saw the value of the cocoon trick. Wounded soldiers especially were at risk of freezing, even if their injuries weren't fatal. Medics began wrapping casualties in ponchos and blankets, getting them off the ground and sealing in warmth. This simple method stabilized core temperature and saved countless lives. The blanket roll became standard medical practice, even formalized in training. Sometimes 2 soldiers would lie beside a casualty, sharing body heat in a human sandwich. The technique spread from foxholes to field hospitals and beyond. Today's emergency space blankets work on the same principles. The core lesson: insulate, protect, and improvise. Simple knowledge, not fancy equipment, is often the best medicine. Walk into any outdoor store and you'll see the legacy of the field blanket trick. Modern sleeping systems use the same 3-layer principle: ground pad, sleeping bag, and weatherproof shell. Materials have changed: ultralight tarps, down bags, but the science is identical. Even clothing follows this system-based layer: insulation and shell. The field blanket trick is the foundation of outdoor survival gear. The lesson? Good ideas last. Soldiers didn't have high-tech gear, but they understood the principles. If you know the why, you can improvise with anything. Plastic bags, dry leaves, whatever's at hand. The knowledge is more important than the gear. You don't need fancy equipment to survive. You need to understand the system. The field blanket trick is timeless, adaptable, and still saves lives. It's a direct line from WWII foxholes to today's campsites. Survival is about principles, not products. The real story of the field blanket trick is about the ultimate survival tool: your mind. Gear can fail, but knowledge and creativity are always with you. WWII soldiers faced brutal cold with failing equipment, but they didn't give up. They adapted. They saw problems, engineered solutions, and shared what worked. This spirit of ingenuity is the heart of survival. Today, we're surrounded by advanced gear, but knowledge weighs nothing. Understanding how to stay warm is more valuable than any expensive jacket. The field blanket trick still works. Tarp, blanket, rope, and you're set. Remember those soldiers, their courage, grit, and cleverness. Pack the right gear, but more importantly, pack your knowledge. Be ready to adapt and improvise. When it matters most, it's not the brand on your gear that saves you. It's your mind. That's the ultimate survival tool, and it can never be taken from you.